Hello again. Welcome back to the Movie Buff Reactions channel. Today I'm going to be watching the latest video put up by my man, The Unusual Suspect. This is his video covering all the other sci-fi movies, not Star Wars, that feature Mark Hamill. And as soon as I heard about this, my main thought was, is he going to cover The Guyver, a movie that I'll admit I haven't seen in its entirety, but I know of because the Nostalgia Critic and Bennett the Sage reviewed it many years ago, and it was like a crazy-ass film, and I'll admit I'm not entirely familiar with all of the other sci-fi films Hamill has done outside of Star Wars, but he is an interesting actor, and you watch some of his other work, like in The Big Red One and Body Bags, you know, he was definitely more than just Luke Skywalker, and of course, there's his work in voice acting with Avatar: The Last Airbender and all the Batman cartoons. So this will be interesting, curious to see what he has to say, because I know that Mark Hamill has done a bunch of crazy things, and without further ado, let's watch.
Mark Hamill is a really interesting actor to talk about, I think, because, well, anyone remember this joke from that Star Wars Family Guy parody?
I'm Han Solo, captain of the Millennium Falcon, and the only actor whose career isn't destroyed by this movie.
I mean, okay, Harrison Ford
I remember,
definitely
and
had
he was
most
pissed
runaway
about
success
that.
after Star Wars, but come on, guys. Mark Hamill's done alright for himself. I mean, his voiceover work has been legendary.
Yeah.
Lord Ozai, Hobgoblin, Skeletor, Goro Majima, the Joker.
I love that clip. It's great.
I mean, he's such a beast of a voice actor. They got him to lend his vocal talents to an air raid alert system in Ukraine. Yes, I am serious. Look.
Attention. Air raid alert.
Huh.
Proceed to the nearest shelter. Don't be careless. Your overconfidence is your weakness. May the Force be with you.
That's, I don't know what to make of that.
Shit, we're all gonna die. So, yeah, Hamill's had a hell of a career outside of Star Wars. Behind the mic, at least. Yeah, his animated exploits are bountiful and brilliant, but I doubt many of you guys can name any live-action roles he's done that don't rhyme with puke pie porker. I mean, I'm sure some films come to mind, but can you honestly
Body
name
Bags.
any of these characters? Harrison Ford had Rick Deckard, Jack Ryan, Dr. Richard Kimball, Indiana Jones. Hamill had,
The trickster.
Oh,
yeah.
the cock knocker. That's one you can't forget.
Now, Harrison Ford went on to do many different genres, but he went back to sci-fi occasionally, with 2 successful Blade Runner films and appearances in Cowboys and Aliens and Ender's Game. Films which might not have always been
Yeah, he was in that.
successes, but they were big-budget blockbusters that drew a lot of A-list talent. But with Mark Hamill, he too went back to sci-fi. In fact, more so than Ford. But nobody talks about the films he did. Many don't even know they exist. Which is crazy when you think about it. I mean, we have the leading star of the most successful science fiction franchise ever made, and then he went on to star in other science fiction projects. And you are all drawing a blank right now, aren't you? So let's talk about them. Because outside Star Wars, I counted 5 different science fiction movies Mark Hamill starred in, most of which came out in the 90s, which is an interesting era for Mark Hamill. Because, let's be honest, the Star Wars sequels we all really wanted to see was Mark Hamill in his 40s, not his 60s. I wanted to see a Luke Skywalker in his prime, not this. So the following films could act as a glimpse into the episode 7 that never was. Let's take a look. Okay, so the first of Mark Hamill's sci-fi flicks post-Star Wars came out in 1989 with Steven Lisberger's Slipstream.
I've heard of this.
Again, we have the leading star of the biggest movie phenomenon of all time teaming up with the director of Tron. How have I not heard of this movie? I mean, Slipstream has an all-star cast too. Bill Paxton, Ben Kingsley, Rob Peck, F. Murray Abraham. Oh, and they even got producer Gary Kurtz, who worked on Star Wars Episodes 4 and 5 to produce this film as well.
Rest in peace, man.
Knowing all that, I went in expecting to uncover a real underrated gem. And once those credits rolled, I realized I just sat through one of the biggest piles of shit I've ever seen in my life. Oh my god, this film is a bloody mess. And it's kind of difficult to review for that reason, as you won't get a feel for how truly disjointed it is, unless you see it for yourself. But I try my best to explain, because you do not want to waste your time with this shit. The plot of the film
Duly
is
noted.
that Mark Hamill plays a law official / bounty hunter. I guess you could say he's like a judge. And he and his partner have apprehended an android wanted for murder, led by Bob, clever girl, Peck. Then Paxton steals the android, as he wants the bounty for himself. And then the film becomes about Hamill chasing after them, while Paxton begins to form an unlikely relationship with the android. Which sounds good. In theory, movies about robotic relations can be quite interesting, but... I mean, Slipstream is so convoluted,
Good imitation.
it beggars belief. It has some of the worst editing and pacing I've ever seen in a movie. And if it's not boring the living bejesus out of you, it's confusing the living bejesus out of you. Look, just watch this scene to get an idea of just how bad it is. Paxton's got Hamill at gunpoint, and then...
Ducker, please! Wait in here. Some people just don't.
I got nothing.
Time out? What the hell was up with this guy? Look, you are not missing context. This random dude shows up to run Hamill down, and then he just disappears. I swear to you, this guy never shows up in the movie again. Who the fuck were you? And if the editing...
Very Cannonball Run-ish.
The world certainly will. It's honestly the most poorly realized setting I've ever seen in a movie. And after looking up info on the film, I still don't think I understand it. Apparently, climate change swept away civilization. I guess. I mean, the world looks fine to me. And
one of those
the titular
plots.
Slipstream is a wind current that circles the globe. That somehow factors into keeping those left alive? I think. I couldn't make heads or tails out of it. Nothing is explained. The characters keep referring to this slipstream, with some societies even worshipping it like some sort of god. But I just couldn't get my head around what it was exactly and why it's so important. And the plot itself is even more convoluted. First of all, after Paxton
I hate
steals the
convoluted
android,
plots.
he goes home and we get some random uninteresting scenes with Hagrid in a hot tub.
Blimey!
Then they come across a village who got attacked by someone. Who were the perpetrators? Never addressed. Then the android tries to help them, but they're a bunch of robot racists, so they hang him up on a kite to appease their wind god.
Gotta have those.
Oh, you can stay, but I'm leaving. Someone get me some cider. Then there's a horrible scene where they try to get him down from the kite, and it's shot and edited so poorly, you can't tell what the fuck's going on. Oh, and Hamill supposedly dies here. How? Death by kite.
More dignified than
And then
Last
some
Jedi.
random woman shows up out of nowhere as she takes Paxton and the android to some sort of underground museum where the android falls in love and proceeds to dance like Fred Astaire.
Well, I can appreciate a good dance scene.
Look, that bass you're pulling right now? That was my constant expression whilst watching this feature. Look, if you watched my video I did about the Ewok films, this is another example of a and then type of plot structure. Stuff just happens. There's no flow here. Pretty ironic for a film called Slipstream. And it makes this 1 hour 40-minute long movie feel more like 3 hours. I couldn't believe how many times I reached out for the remote to see how much longer it was, and then immediately
that's how you know it's bad.
I realized I wasn't even halfway through yet. And despite a decent budget of $15 million, which is actually more than the original Star Wars, believe it or not, you certainly wouldn't know it, as all the action scenes are implied. Yeah, they begin a shootout, it lasts a few seconds, and then they just skip to right after the battle.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, lay me to rest too, I've lost the will to live. Thank you. So, yeah, the action is non-existent, because it would appear that they blew their whole budget on planes, with scenes of them flying seemingly taking up a good fifth of the runtime, all of which are accompanied by an incredibly over-the-top and out-of-place soundtrack. Guys, it's a plane flying. It's an inanimate fucking object. It's not that impressive. Especially considering the only shot of the movie where a plane does any kind of stunt has the worst effects ever applied to it. You know a film is bad when they can't even effectively key out a still picture. A 3-year-old could have done that for you. Oh, and there's also a small matter of the hero and villain's roles being the wrong way around. Yeah, Paxton plays the hero, and Hamill is the villain. But Paxton is an arsehole in this. Like, remember how much of a douchebag he was in True Lies? And now he's rightfully portrayed as a punching bag for Arnold there? Yeah, imagine if that character was our hero. Voila, Slipstream. He's mean-spirited, rude, incredibly sexist. Oh, and he just straight up essays a woman in this.
Trying to think of something this reminds me of, but I can't.
Again, remember when he did that in True Lies, and how he then got ridiculed for it?
I got a little dick, it's pathetic.
But he does it here, and he gets the girl. Yeah, the woman he
essays
falls in love with him.
It's like the Street Fighter, Sonny Chiba.
This is wrong.
The relationship between
where the hero is an attempted rapist.
1 minute she hates his guts, the next she's fawning over him. It makes no sense. And then you got Hamill, and he simply just wants to bring in the android for the murder he committed. And somehow that makes him the villain? I mean, he kills a few people, but it's either in self-defense or the victims in questions were the one harboring a known killer. Look, I'm not saying he's morally impeccable, but I take him over Rapey McDurkface any day. Hamill's actual death
he has a good nickname.
Hit not as hard as it should, which is a shame because he actually goes out with one of his trademark Joker laughs.
Preparing to be the Joker.
There, right there. That's the best part of the movie.
I just saved you 2 long, boobless hours.
So yeah, Slipstream is an absolute dumpster fire of a film, and understandably, it went straight to video. It did get a very limited theatrical run in the UK and Australia, but it never hit theatres stateside. Thank the stars you missed this shit, America. How the flying fuck could so many talented individuals come together to produce such trash is beyond me. Skip it, skip it, skip it.
Woof.
Duly noted.
Okay, I need a palate cleanse, so let's move on to Hamill's next sci-fi flick, of which came out in 1991, as he actually took a stab at a sci-fi themed
The Guyver,
specifically an American tokusatsu, an adaptation of a manga called Bio Booster Armor Guyver. The film was called The Guyver.
The Guyver. The Guyver. The Guyver.
No. The Guyver. Dumb name, I know. But
same joke that the NC and Bennett made.
Oh, right, Mark Hamill's superhero movie. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And then once I finished watching, I was like, what the hell is even that? This film is weird. Seriously, I've never seen anything as tonally confused in my life. I don't even know where to begin. I guess I'll firstly talk about the poster. And how it's a complete lie. See how Hamill has top billing, and it's his face merging into the superhero.
He ain't the lead.
Naturally, you'd therefore assume that Hamill was the superhero in this. But he's not. This guy is. Hamill plays a grizzled detective type, who honestly doesn't even factor into the plot all that much.
Glorified extended cameo.
We got Luke Skywalker. Best we plaster his face all over the promo material. Please give us money, Star Wars fans. We'll even begin the movie with a Star Wars-style opening crawl with a James Earl Jones sound-alike.
The Zoanoid leader, called the Zoalord, has awakened.
Oh, bloody hell.
Formed the Kronos Corporation. Stupid.
Anyway, regardless of the underhanded promo practices, what's the plot of the movie? Well, a bunch of weird-looking alien creatures kill a scientist.
They do look cool.
Because he's in possession of a bioweapon called the Guyver, which has the ability to transform a human into a powerful superhero. for some reason. The villains get duped, however, as the Guyver ends up in the possession of a man called Sean, as he dons the weapon to take down the evil Kronos Corporation, get the girl, and save the day. Oh, and Mark Hamill's there too. Now, the biggest issue with the film is undoubtedly the tone. This movie has no idea.
More uneven than The Fifth Element.
The Guyver is like a combination of John Carpenter's The Thing and Power Rangers. And I feel like I'm stating the obvious when I say those two don't fucking mix.
Maybe not, but I'd give that a watch.
You have a super gritty, edgy, gory creature feature, including some scenes which are so grotesque, I'm wary of even showing them on YouTube. Which blows my mind, because this movie is PG-13. How they got
Old
away
school
with that,
PG-13.
But on the other hand, you have scenes like this. Who is this movie for? I truly cannot fathom how they thought this was a good idea. One minute it's deeply disturbing and R-rated, the next it's Scooby fucking Doo.
What is this?
And this all starts to make sense when you realise the guy who directed this goes by the name Screaming Mad George.
That's the stupidest
With a name like that, how can you fail in the business?
Personal apology to Chaos. You no longer have the strangest director name out there. I mean, look, the movie's imaginative enough, I guess. I actually really like the Guyver's costume and the effect they use when he suits up. Yeah, I really dig the old school effects there. It's pretty cool. I wouldn't call the film overtly boring like Slipstream was. Some of the stunts are actually quite impressive. Ow. And the acting is not good, but it can be delightfully over the top. The major villain especially is delightfully hokey. Check out this line.
Well, he's the severed head from Reanimator.
What is this? Some sort of masochistic joke?
But cheesy OTT performances are nowhere near enough to save this feature. The main actress has been dubbed to oblivion. I mean, she is horrible.
Let me go! I don't know anything!
Oh, and
me
then
know
there's this
nothing.
really jarring transition effects they use. Oh, hello. New scene? Look, this wouldn't be so bad, but they keep on using it. I'm half expecting it's going to cut to someone who wasn't ready yet. Oh, and one of the monsters? Look, he's like Jar Jar, but worse. And a lot of you might be thinking, how could Jar Jar be worse? Oh, I don't know. How about if he rapped?
Let me just tell you one thing.
Oh, Jimmy Walker.
I'm going to make you crawl and going to make you sing. Because I want that guiding, jiving thing. Boy.
And would you believe that this film got a sequel? Yeah, the cast didn't return, but in 1994, we got Guyver, Dark Hero. And I think most of you will recognize who goes on to play the Guyver. Yeah, last person on Earth I expected to see. And for those who were like, huh, wait a minute, who is this guy? I don't recognize him. Oh, you do. Wait until you hear him speak.
Claws? I'm not the one with the claws.
Huh? Ringing a bell?
That nervous glance, that scared look in your eyes. They're rookies' eyes if I ever saw them.
Yeah, that's Solid Snake himself, David Hayter in the flesh. A full 3 years before he got...
I've never played Solid Snake, so sadly I didn't recognize him.
Not in this one, so I'm not going to go too in-depth about it. But know that Dark Hero is much better than the original. Admittedly, it's kind of drawn out. It's 2 hours, should have been 90 minutes. And honestly, it's pretty by the book and nothing you've not seen before. But it's far more tonally sound, going for a more consistently darker vibe and removing all the goofy shit from the first film. It can still get weird, but it's far more palatable. And Hayter makes a much cooler protagonist to boot.
We've only just stepped inside.
Is the ship more important than your life? You're dealing with monsters here.
Gotta admit, I'm surprised he didn't go on to become a bigger live-action star. But hey, he certainly found his
A
career.
lot of actors didn't go on as you'd think they would.
Coincidentally reminiscent of Hamill's career. Look, if you want to watch a live-action Guyver movie, this is your go-to. The characters are more likable and fleshed out, the choreography is stronger, the cinematography accentuates the creature designs better. It's not going to win any awards, but it's fine and completely watchable. Which is far more than I can say for the original. Okay, so what was next for Hamill in the sci-fi
Number
space?
3.
Well, he went on to do another Alien picture just 2 years later, with 1993's Time Runner. Yeah.
I've heard the
Paul
name.
got Blade Runner, Hamill got Time Runner. Spoiler alert, Hamill got the short end of the stick there, but regardless, what's Time Runner about? Well, it's set in the far distant year of 2022. As things are a little
Oh boy.
In 2021, all nations unite under a single ruling body.
Okay, this movie's the most unrealistic one yet. Which is really saying something considering the last one featured a rapping Jar Jar Binks.
Boy!
And understandably, I guess, the Earth is under attack.
And it is glorious!
Now, Hamill plays a captain aboard a spaceship, as his wife is a goner. Ah, see what you did there. As he gets in an escape pod and randomly falls into a wormhole, which transports him back 30 years, as he's got to use that opportunity to save the future. Yeah, a lot of people draw Terminator comparisons to this, and understandably so.
I'm gonna need some clothes.
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
But I'm reminded more of X-Men Days of Future Past. Invading forces.
I like the idea of Mark Hamill as a time-traveling hero.
But is the movie any good? No. But it's the best movie so far. I mean, compared to something like Slipstream, this is a goddamn masterpiece. So let's talk about the good stuff. Mark Hamill, for one, is much better here. His performance is more what you'd expect from him. And as he lands in the past, I gotta admit, I was on board for this flick. I was legitimately enjoying it. Some cool revelations come by, like how Hamill gets these visions of the future, and those close to his vicinity can see them too. To how the chick from Commando is revealed to be an alien herself with her own agenda. To how it's revealed that the aliens are actually implanting themselves into society long before the invasion begins. Oh, and then there's a scene where Hamill has
Like
to
They
see his
Live.
own mother giving birth to himself. It's kind of trippy, but intriguing.
You should do something.
Man, what is it with Mark Hamill's mothers keeping on dying in childbirth? Like I got your break.
Oh, poor Mark Hamill.
So yeah, the film has some really interesting ideas, but it doesn't stick the landing. The characters are pretty boring, the effects are very dated, the screenplay often makes no sense, what with our villains keeping on magically finding Hamill when they have no reason to suspect he'd be in a specific location. And then there's the dialogue.
Hey, apart, you little bag of shit! Eat my shorts!
Did he just say?
What an odd thing to say.
Oh, yeah, while we're here, let's talk about this guy. What the hell? Yeah, so this character is called Arnie, and Hamill and Commando Lady meet him when they hijack his plane, as unknown to them, he was sleeping in the back, and when he wakes, well...
Who the hell are you?
You're hostage, man. What do you think?
Okay.
Just go with the
I wasn't
flow.
expecting that. You'd assume he'd go apeshit or attack our heroes or something, but no, he knows his place in this movie.
Who the hell are you?
Well, clearly you're hostage. Nice to meet you. I'm assuming you want a ransom, so here's my phone where you can call my rich uncle. He's actually a stockbroker, so best you call him if you want a good return on investment. I have a pair of pliers right here, so you can pull my fingers off one by one. And an envelope, you can pop them in. My uncle's address is already written on there. Shall I blindfold myself now or later?
Shall I bend down and let you rape my ass?
Just goes along for the ride. Yeah, he's got nothing to do with the plot. He has no reason to be here.
Must have been
He's
the
just
brother-in-law of the
you know, it's
director.
be in a movie where I
Gave him a
shoot
role as a
aliens
gift.
alongside Luke Skywalker. Say no more. Just tell me who to point this at.
If those aliens you told me about look human, how do you tell the difference? Look, if they shoot again, they're probably aliens.
Huh. Did Captain America watch this movie?
How do we know the good guys from the bad guys? If they're shooting at you, they're bad.
So, yeah, the film can be surprisingly fun at times. But there's issues galore. For one, the action scenes are awful. I mean, they're better than Slipstreams on account of action scenes actually
potential,
existing, but it all goes
not
tits
enough
up because of the 180-degree rule. Or lack thereof. If you don't know, this is a rule in filmmaking, where you have to keep the camera on one side of the action. That way you don't confuse viewers with the placement of the characters. Because if you put the camera over here, now the image will be flipped, and viewers will lose track of the scene. And yeah, Time Runner doesn't give two shits about this rule. The action scenes are filmed and edited with zero care given to how the scenes flow. And that's not to mention how characters keep shooting at others and yet seemingly no one ever gets hit.
Well, he is from Star Wars. No one can shoot. There's a bug flying around.
How is no one getting shot? Are you all shooting blanks? Well, obviously you are, you're actors, but we're not meant to believe that. Oh, and it doesn't help how many lines in the action scenes were so obviously inserted in post.
Look out, they're right behind you.
That ADR.
Crazy.
So unfortunate.
You know what you're doing?
Doing the best I can.
I mean, this is just ridiculous. Oh, but the absolute piece de resistance is the scene which introduces the henchman of the film, played by dollar star Malcolm McDowell over here, which is a slow-mo fest of men walking towards Commando Lady, accompanied with dramatic music that lasts for over 2 minutes of screen time.
I'm getting Battlefield Earth vibes here.
This goes on, and on, and on.
I feel it.
And to make it worse, as he gets closer, the soundtrack ups in tempo. It's like a parody.
Maybe the Zuckers will make something out of it.
Colonel Freeman, Intelligence and Security Command.
Ah! Not Colonel Freeman!
That's it.
Who the fuck's Colonel Freeman? Seriously, what is up with this scene? Usually an introduction this dramatic is for a character we might be somewhat familiar with. But this is the first time we've ever seen this guy. This soundtrack would be too ridiculous for Dark Helmet.
Yeah, it would. Gotta love the classics.
Is atrocious. Remember Arnie and how he has absolutely no discernible motivation and has nothing to do with the plot? Well, he only just comes out of nowhere again to save the whole fucking day.
Clearly a friend of the director, who he owed a favor to. Has to be.
Worst death ever.
And then Hamill just disappears. For some reason.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
And that's it. Credits roll. Well, that was a bit shit. This movie is a real shit. I really wanted to like it. And initially, I was really getting into it. But the script just gives up in the latter half, which is really bad considering the film was written by
I do like seeing Radon Chong.
People. 6 writers put their collective brains together to write final one-line zingers
6?
like...
Get your alien visa just...
How the fuck did that work?
Next. Now I know what you're thinking. Mark Hamill has met up with Bill Paxton, Japanese superheroes, and his younger self. But has he ever teamed up with the kid from Free Willy? What's that? You weren't thinking that? Well, tough shit, we're talking about Laserhawk.
Okay, I've never even heard of this title.
Now this was a 1997 Mark Hamill starring feature about another alien invasion. Though this one is going more for that
So many
young,
invasions.
Are You Afraid of the Dark Goosebumps audience. Same kind of vibe. Jason James Richter of Free Willy fame plays
And
a
Never-Ending
creepy
Story
loner type
3.
who likes to troll his community
Yeah.
with fake UFO sightings. But then one actually happens and his entire bloody town gets abducted. And he and his would-be love interest note a striking similarity between this invasion and a comic book they read. Turns out the guy who wrote this comic book stole his idea from Mark Hamill's character, and he plays a Sarah Connor from Terminator 2 type, in that he's rightfully wary of Doomsday, but nobody believes in him, so they shove him in a loony bin. So our heroes break him out as they go give what for to the aliens. Now this movie is a product of its time. Honestly, kind of surprised Mark Hamill went for it. It's honestly just a dumb Disney Channel style kids movie, which is just so damn 90s, dude.
Oh,
yeah,
brother.
For anyone born after the new millennium, know that we were lame too. But okay,
I was born in 95, so I missed the 90s, but the early 2000s had their fair share of shit.
As they then break into a military base to steal a spaceship, of which Hamill knows how to fly.
Human technology doesn't have a hope in hell against their attack fleet. But a Xenoite fighter just might.
So, Hamill offers to portray an army official to get in, but his cover is blown, and a chase scene ensues. And then... well, he'll be fine. Star Wars characters get shot all the time. Hell, he even got shot in Time Runners and he lived. No worries, he'll be fine.
I guess they'll go forward for 3 days.
At least now he knows what his father went through. But really? You wrote into your scripts that Luke Skywalker was going to go pilot a spaceship and you killed him off before he could get the chance to?
Well, that's legitimately disappointing.
But oh, not to worry. The kid from Free Willy is going to take over. Yeah, flying a 250-million-year-old spaceship, it's like riding a bike. This kid's
definitely for the
behind
kids.
wheel. Oh, and that's no joke. He just straight up drives everywhere in this movie for some reason.
Thanks, son. I owe you one.
Aren't you like 14?
Crying out loud, there's a kid driving the car!
Oh, and then there's the ending
Well,
of the movie.
the kid in Phantasm was 14,
Tell
and he
me if
drove.
This sounds familiar. Our heroes meet up with military officials in Area 51 as they pilot an old spaceship they uncovered years ago.
Independence
They fly
Day?
it up to the mothership and then blow it from within to smithereens. Yeah, and it came out just 1 year before this movie did. I mean, they do throw
Did
in
the
a
big
space
budget
dock
film
right
rip
there,
off the
but
small one?
It's impossible to follow. It's just a barrage of shitty visual effects that is so desperately trying to capture that Star Wars magic.
I got one! Princeton, don't get cocky.
So yeah, the action and visuals are hot garbage, but there can be some funny lines here and there. Mostly from Kara over here, who I think is the best part of the movie.
I mean, look at this! You ask me, any species capable of styrofoam deserves to die.
Okay, I don't know if that line was intended to be funny or not.
Doesn't make
but I do
sense,
want it on a
but it's
t-shirt.
funny.
Oh, and then she gets another good line earlier in the film when they're trespassing on a crime scene.
We get caught, I can forget about Penn State. I'll go to the state pen.
Surprisingly clever line, that. Nice wordplay. But yeah, Laserhawk might have been good for keeping kids quiet for 90 minutes back in 97, but aside from that, you don't need to bother with this. Okay, so I think we can all agree on something by now. Mark Hamill, he's down for appearing in a lot of crap. And I thought maybe he prides himself a bit more with his voice work. But then I realized, oh yeah, he played a character in that travesty, didn't he?
Ugh.
Oh, our princess.
Why
has
remind
my
us
good
of
looks
that?
and your spending habits.
Yeah, as long as there's a steady paycheck in it, Mark will believe anything you say. But still, aren't there any other movies out there? Have I truly now seen every Mark Hamill sci-fi flick known to man?
Yes.
I mean, Laserhawk. That was our last hope.
No. There is another.
Oh?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know these aren't movies, but you cannot talk about Mark Hamill's Sci-Fi without mentioning the Wing Commander franchise, of which are a series of space flight sims. But the third game in the franchise, Heart of the Tiger, marks a clear departure.
A little cheating here, but we'll see what he has to say.
Full motion video.
Wow, the future is here.
So I don't know about you, but this seems like a movie to me. The game even advertised itself with the slogan, "Don't watch the game, play the movie." And not only is Mark Hamill a part of this, they've got tons of other well-known stars too. John Rhys Davis, Josh Lucas, Biff himself, Tom
Actors
Wilson,
like to do these back in the day.
Malcolm McDowell this time.
Things are looking up.
And when the game was released, it did so to critical acclaim. And those that played the game back in '94 look at it with immense fondness. So does this mean people who've never played it should check it out today? Well, Wing Commander fans might kill me for saying this, but no. Now, this is not because the game is bad. It's not. It is good. For its time. Yeah, there are far better spaceflight sim games out these days, which you're much better spending your time and money on. Not to mention that these games are readily available to play on hardware you, actually own. You see, Wing Commander 3 was designed for early 1990s PCs, and getting it to run on modern ones is tricky. You're going to need to set aside time for YouTube tutorials to figure out how to set it up correctly. And I myself was lost.
Yeah, we don't got patience these days.
And the audio wouldn't stop stuttering. So I gave up and I used an emulator, as I heard good things about the 3DO ports. So I got that booted up, the game was running finally, and immediately I had no idea what I was doing. This game has such a steep learning curve. With the amount of button combinations you have to learn, it's too damn high. And the game's
people wonder why I'm not much of a gamer.
Playing it quite tricky for anyone not already a spaceflight sim veteran. I mean, once you do understand everything, the game is fun. It does play well, but it's a little repetitive and, yeah, I mean, why play this when you can play this?
Well done.
I mean, come on. But don't misunderstand. Wing Commander 3, I have to commend for just how pioneering it is. Because video games these days can often be just as much films as they are games. And Heart of the Tiger, I think, was the first game that could be described that way. I mean, sure, it wasn't the first to use full motion video, far from it, but it set a new standard for what gaming as a narrative construct could be. And I think studios like Quantic Dream, Telltale, and especially BioWare owe a lot of thanks to this game. I mean, Wing Commander
I feel
3
so bad because I don't know these games, so can't fully appreciate what he's saying.
Your ship, and you can build relationships with your crew, for they all have their own little story to tell.
You've never seen it, have you? Seen what? Never seen pilots, people you know, getting fried in their own cockpit. I do my part for Confed. I don't think I've ever met anyone as frightened as you.
And many of these characters are fellow pilots, which you can bring into battle as your wingmen. And during these dogfights, they can die. They can permanently be gone from the game, which admittedly wasn't a new feature at the time. Permadeath was a thing even back then, but to combine that mechanic with characters this well portrayed and acted was new and pretty exciting for the time. Now, the plot of the game is actually fairly simple. Mark Hamill plays a hotshot pilot called Christopher Blair as he gets transferred to a new battleship, which is currently fighting a war against the Kilrathi, a war-loving race of
the puny contingent of their soldiers.
Dog lions?
Well, put it this way, I'm betting they all start their day with a bowl of Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. They're great! Interestingly, one of your crew is a Kilrathi himself, and the relationship that forms between him and Hamill gave me strong Shepherd Garrus vibes.
But hey, I got good news for you. I put you back on the fly roster.
But I requested...
Never mind that. I want you with me on my first mission.
Well, there are many brave and noble pilots here.
Yeah, but when my life's on the line, I want a wingman I can trust.
I shall try not to disappoint you, old friend.
It's pretty telling of the other film's qualities that the best character chemistry Hamill's had so far is with an actor dressed like a 7-foot pussycat. The story is less interesting though. It's really by the book, often lifting elements from Star Wars, like how the final mission of the game was a trench run.
Successful
Well, of
insertion
course.
required
It
the
has Mark
ultimate
Hamill.
in navigational skills.
The target area is only 2 meters wide.
To how there's yet another planet-killing superweapon present.
Any target at the end of that point is destroyed.
Even a planet.
Yes, Captain. Even a planet.
Yeah, the draw here are the characters, not the story, as the scenes Hamill has with his fellow crew
Sometimes
are well
characters,
acted,
good
and he
characters
has
are all you
excellent
need.
chemistry with them.
You're taking a big risk morale-wise. And if you lose, you won't be too popular around here, so I'm going to give you a word of advice, Colonel. Kick the little twerp's ass.
Yes, sir.
Is that Ozzie Davis?
And speaking of chemistry, another pioneering feature is a romance option that's present. You can either have Hamill end up with Flint, a fellow pilot, or you can choose ship mechanic Rachel over here, played by actress Ginger Lynn. And if you don't know who Ginger Lynn is,
I know who she
let's
is.
say maybe her scene should have begun with this sound. Just be wary when you Google her name.
It gets a little blue.
Now, to
I would say more,
hot,
hot.
Mark Hamill starring entry with Wing Commander 4, The Price of Freedom. Oh, and there was also Wing Commander Prophecy, but he wasn't in that one much. And this sequel is a vast improvement, and this is mostly thanks to its increased budget. You see, Wing Commander 3 was produced for $4 million, but Wing Commander 4 tripled that to an eye-watering $12 million, an astronomical figure by the standards of 1996 gaming. GTA San Andreas cost less to make than that. And you'll notice immediately how much of an improvement it is visually, because the last game was pretty much limited to character A talking to character B on a green screen. That's 99% of what that game's cutscenes are. Wing Commander 4, however, is light years better. There's actual sets this time, and extras populate them to create very believable settings. This is mind-blowing, considering other games of the same year had cutscenes that looked like this. And thanks to the DVD release this got, the visual fidelity is much better too. If you don't want to play the game, the cutscenes are very watchable on YouTube. More well-known stars come aboard
Best
too.
way to watch.
John Spencer of West Wing fame, and Mark Dacascos as one of the new pilot recruits.
Second Lieutenant Troy Carter. Call sign, Cat Scratch.
And the action is no longer limited
Cat
to
Scratch.
gameplay. We do get to see some shootouts and dogfights this time, which can look great.
Download complete. Got it.
And actors like McDowell and Wilson get more time to shine here too. Tom Wilson as
That's
a
good.
maniac is a real highlight, because, like Biff, he's an arsehole. But he's a likable one, which is a real tough role to play.
Colonel Blair, nice meeting you. Thank you. Let me take your back.
Thank you, Colonel Blair, sir. It's an honor, sir. Nice to meet you.
All hail, the mighty heart of the tiger.
And McDowell is fab. There's an awesome final scene
Well,
at the end
naturally.
where you as Blair face off against him in court in a war of words. It's brilliant stuff.
Space Marshal Tallwood believes that our victory over the Kilrathi was a fluke. That we as a race need tinkering with, engineering. If a few billion die along the way, well, they weren't worthy anyway. Why can't we be more like the Kilrathi? Addicted to conflict. The only meaning to life being found in death. Tell us all, Admiral. Is that the price of freedom?
It just
He's
blows
more
my
alive
mind we
here,
were getting
not
video game
sleepwalking.
Experiences like this. The same year we were playing Super Mario 64. But for most people, I still say skip this one. Yeah, the Mark Hamill starring Wing Commander games must be the only games I can give massive praise to, whilst at the same time not recommend them. Unless they get the modern day remaster treatment, which they sorely need. These games were ridiculously ahead of their time, and they deserve to be modernized so audiences today can appreciate them. I mean, get these put on the PlayStation and Xbox Online stores at least. And whilst it doesn't look like any official studio is taking this task on anytime soon, I did discover a passionate fan project in the works. And these guys are actually in the process of remastering Wing Commander 4, and they're they're planning to release it on the
Studio
game's
won't do it.
30th
Do it
anniversary
yourself.
in 2026. So I'd honestly hold off until this remaster gets released, or a budding game studio decides to take this project on themselves. Because if we could combine cutscenes like this with gameplay like this,
Just took it to my veins!
I've got my fingers crossed we'll see something like that one day. Although, it is cool to see that as of the time of making this video, Wing Commander 3's director, Chris Roberts, is teaming up with Mark Hamill again. Not in a remaster, but a whole new video game called Squadron 42, which will be a linear single-player title set in the Star Citizen universe. It's been in development for seemingly forever, but it's looking good. And hey, maybe if this video does well, I'll take a look at it when that comes out.
I could have pulled this off of the Galactopedia.
Yeah, probably, but I think their solar mass calculations are wrong though.
Well, this is ridiculous.
Okay, that's it for today. And if you're watching this, that must mean
There's my
you're
name.
a patron. Thank you all so much for the incredible support, and allow me to thank my top tier patrons by name. And their wonderful names are Hayden Redmond, Ryan Massey, Matthew Tangerman, Dr. Ten, Mark Tonner, Gregorio Vasquez, Max Stahl, Goldspro TSG, Ewan Hurst, Joshua Bowden, Jacob Matthew Crawford, Christian Lishka, and last but not least, Stephanie Sujiputra. Much love, guys. The support is incredibly appreciated. Till next time, guys. Peace out.
Peace out, my man. That was a lot of fun. I like that. The main vibe I'm getting from the clips he showed and his commentary is most of these movies seem kind of dull and not memorable. The Guyver, again, the review that the Nostalgia Critic and Bennett the Sage did really highlighted just what a mess it was, and they actually made the same joke of how it sounds like MacGyver. And yeah, Mark Hamill supporting role, that can be welcome, but it just seems like a weird kind of glorified extended cameo, pretty much, which also could be applied to a lot of these movies based on the description. I liked him acknowledging the Family Guy gag. It's harsh, and I believe Mark Hamill was not happy with that joke. That Ukraine air raid warning? I didn't know about that. That's fucking wild. Slipstream, I've heard the name. Thing about Bill Paxton being the rapey protagonist. Reminds me a little bit of Sonny Chiba from the Street Fighter, which I mentioned while watching. In that movie, he plays a guy who tries to rape a woman when a debt is owed to him, but he's the hero. And then later, he saves a woman from being raped by ripping the guy's dick off. And you're like, weren't you gonna do this earlier? But nonetheless, pretty impressive cast in a lot of these movies. The pulled face of the suspect. I like that. His Zoolander clip for the Guyver. What is this? I like that because that's the best scene in Zoolander, a film that I'm not particularly that fond of, but I like that scene with the model. The Jimmy Walker, comparing him to Jar Jar Binks, Doug and Bennett also did that in their review, and Jimmy Walker, you just don't know what to fucking make of him. If he's not acting in a role that has questionable racial undertones, then he's fucking Ann Coulter, supposedly. And Time Runner, I've heard this, and I have heard about the watching himself be born plotline. I didn't know much beyond that. The stuff about the random guy who just goes with the flow when he wakes up in the plane. I like that, and Ross's green screen of him being the willing kidnappee. That was funny, I really like that. And the 2022, like Blade Runner, which was in 2019. There's only so far ahead in the future you can set something, but setting it in something that's only a few decades away, maybe not the best thing. The ADR being bad, the slow motion sequence, good fucking god, that looked horrible. I couldn't tell which movie Time Runner reminded me more of, Manos, The Hands of Fate, or Battlefield Earth. Maybe it was Slipstream that gave me Manos vibes. I'm a little tired, so these movies are very hard. They seem like they're hard to stay focused on, which is kind of what's happening with me here. But nonetheless, Laserhawk, Looks like a kids film, a sci-fi kids film. Remind me of this other 90s sci-fi film I saw trailers for as a kid, Star Kid, that had Joseph Morzello, I think. He was the kid from Jurassic Park. I loved his "so damn 90s dude" clip. And yeah, they just killed off Mark Hamill like he was nothing. It's it's almost like was he charging by the line and they had to get him out of there faster before they lost their whole budget. And as for Wing Commander 3, the full motion thing I've seen Spoonie cover back, yeah, you know, another old school YouTuber that maybe a lot of people don't remember, but I remember Spoonie covering those type of games, and it's an interesting concept, very of its time, but it's interesting. It can be cool to look at. As I've said many times, I'm not really a gamer, so I can't see myself, even if I had access to the tech to play this game in its true form, I'm not really sure I'd get into it, because I don't have the patience for video games, and him saying it has good characters, I can appreciate that. I appreciate movies and TV shows that have good characters. I like storylines on TV shows that can carry, but a show like Homicide: Life on the Street, just to name an example, that was a show that didn't really rely on continuing arcs, but they did have good characters, and you could appreciate them, like you found yourself really caring about them. And that's all I can say. I enjoyed this quite a bit. It was fun. I'm filming this, as always, at an ungodly hour, so maybe I'm not the most energized, but yeah, this was... Hopefully this gets more views than Ross's last video about the Hollywood movies that were funded by the Vatican, which was a good fucking video, but no one really saw it, and YouTube, in its infinite wisdom, decided to not really give it much exposure. But nonetheless, I think this is definitely a video worth checking out. And if you're watching this, maybe you've already seen it, but if this was kind of your first, then go check it out its full form, rewatch certain bits, it's fun. Just give support to Ross, he deserves it, and we'll see what he does next. I'm always on board for whatever this crazy Brit does, and I will see you again, hopefully soon.